Hi guys, this one is another subscribers only stream. So I'm just going to cover a little bit in terms of where we are, right? So in essence, I guess for me again, nothing's really changed, right? And I know this is kind of hard to kind of keep saying. It's probably hard for you guys to keep kind of listening to. Truth of the matter is, right? When we set up Discord, myself and Paul, the whole idea for us was to teach, I guess, how you guys can kind of become professional. And that isn't scalping, that isn't jumping in and jumping out. A lot of what you do as a professional trader is actually, sitting on your hands, right? I play a lot of golf. I'm currently renovating a house, and you still have time to trade. Okay. Now, in terms of patience being probably the key takeaway, the key lesson, it's very difficult, especially when you're only trading this one instrument or you're only looking at this one instrument. Now, in terms of where we are with Bitcoin, right, we could see going back over a year that roadmap was kind of mapped out, right? There's a few little kind of hiccups along the way, but in essence, it's done nothing really surprising that has actually caused any kind of panic or fear or concern to the adjustment in terms of where we are in the general sense. Okay, so if you look at what we were assuming the price coming down, right? I'll just put some of these on, right? And I know I've covered this kind of time and time and time again, right? So if we look at where we were back at the top, we were looking at this kind of point and figure chart, right? Back in November last year as potential targets for the price to come down, right? So we got this move down. We come in, we rejected, we retested. Okay. So in some way, we could actually assume that this was the A, B, and coming down for C. Okay. So even if we assume this as a potential scenario, you'd now be looking from the B to the C in terms of the move, right? So you'd have a 5-3-5 move, even if this was the case. Okay. So in this five, we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, bottoms in. Okay. And you got to look at it in terms of being relaxed. You got to look at it in terms of regardless of, where we think we are, where we could be, you've got to start putting the scenarios together to give you a bias as to where we are big picture, right? Now, as I've said in the last couple of streams, I don't feel this is the case, right? I still like this is A, and there's more logic for me as to why this is the A. Okay, let's get rid of some of these again. Okay, so although I'm on the daily time frame at the moment, the reason I wanted to show you this on the daily is if you look at what we've done, get rid of this one. If you look at what we've done in the last couple of days, right? We've made very, very little momentum up, right, or to the upside, right? And all we've done is created this ascending channel in essence. Okay, we've got an overbought stochastic, and we've got depleting volume, right? Now, on the smaller time frames, we had this little 1 hour move, and maybe that could have gone underneath the channel. It didn't. Okay, so you've basically got the effort to result type of question mark in this current move. Zooming out to the weekly, right? We're going to have to look at the weekly and say, well, we are definitely in oversold territory, but with low volume, right? Now, what this means for me is given we're actually looking at the 4 monthly moves, right? So in terms of this being the 4 of the monthly, you're going to have to come down to the weekly to analyze. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of those and come back to the weekly. Now, if I was to analyze the weekly, all I'm seeing on the weekly time frame, right, is some kind of seller's climax with a spike in volume, right? Now, I don't need loads of different, volume profiles and moving averages on volume to see that that's high. These are not, right? So, in essence, we've got a move to the downside. We haven't yet filled a wick, which means we're going to be into some kind of an accumulation move on a bigger time frame, right? That's weekly accumulation, right? So for me, we've got an SC weekly. I'm going to come back to the daily and look at this in terms of where we are, right? So I don't see any form of AR kind of rally in this right now, right? That would have been a nicer AR move, but we actually redistributed from there rather than carried on from a sign of strength, okay? Which is another reason why I think this is more likely still the A rather than the C. Okay, so on a weekly time frame, I think we still have a little bit of movement to the upside. But before we get there, we're going to have to see the downside movement, which basically will fill the wick on the bigger time frame. So we've got a wick fill, right? That's potentially what I'm seeing happening right now. Wick fill for the weekly, so on a smaller time frame. That will create the schematic for us, potentially some kind of spring or test, at least, if not the spring. Then basically from the test up, right? And it's going to be that point where the question mark's going to be. Do we see a sign of strength? Do we see another move down for a spring? Right? And then we go. Okay. So that's the kind of move that I'm looking for on a much bigger time frame. Okay. Now, bringing it down then to the smaller time frames, let's look on, say, the 12-hour, for example. On a 12-hour, we've got a pretty similar situation to the daily, right? We've got depleting volume. We've got a move up, which gives us divergence. We've got an overbought stochastic, relatively shitty volume as a whole, which means composite man is probably accumulating, obviously underneath the value level, which, I think for me was still 35K-ish, right? So all of this, in essence, right, if you just put a mark on roughly 35K, right? All of this, in essence, is some kind of giant accumulation, right? And basically still profit taking from the big picture, right? Now, that kind of level there is what I'm looking at in terms of a value area, right? We've definitely got an auction area in and around, it changes to say blue, right? So for me, that's the kind of range in terms of liquidity that if we do see a move up, it could actually be a lower B now, right? That we've come down to these kinds of levels. So look in terms of the consolidation levels, right? So we've got a massive area of consolidation there, and we've got loads of liquidity up and around these levels, right? So taking out the new highs, there's an imbalance sitting in there as well. Okay, so I would like to say that if we do get a B, B for me is probably going to be a slightly wider target now, right there. But I don't think we could go up maybe as high as the 52K that I would have liked to have seen a couple of weeks back, right? Now, there's still potential for it, obviously, right? There's still these levels up here, right? I just feel that that's going to give us the rejection, right, on the bigger time frame again. Now, if I was to map this out without these consolidation levels, what I'm looking for right now on a personal point of view, right, is we're going to go potentially up for a B, back down for a C, creating a double bottom. Then we're going to go something like a 1, back down narrow 2, up potentially for the 3, 4, and then 5 into the new all-time high territory. Okay, that's what I'd be looking at right now. And assessing this along the way. If we get a rejection from this and this one becomes this high instead, like the original plan for the B, then in essence, I feel that we could extend that up even further. But it wouldn't be a surprise looking at the current charts if we were to see another type of double top, another truncation on, and we in essence get a much bigger move that looks something like this. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing at the moment. I think nothing's really changed grand scheme of things. There is still the question mark around this being the C or this being the A. But the beauty of this in terms of taking this from a professional standpoint and not suffering with FOMO is you're going to have an opportunity one way or the other, right? Whether this is C to 1 and you're coming back down for 2, or whether this is A to B and you're coming back down for C, kind of in a similar situation, okay? Smaller time frame, we've got an ascending channel, overbought stochastic. You kind of know where we're going next, right? So that's what I'm seeing at the moment. There's nothing really else to add to this. I'm going to leave it like we are right now and enjoy your week, guys. So thanks for watching. Cheers.